Welcome to the Dateable AF podcast, because women dating women is wild, wonderful, and occasionally a disaster. I'm your host, Dr. Sarah Kyle, a therapist in private practice.
And I'm your co-host, Rachel Howell, researcher extraordinaire.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Season 2, Episode 13 of the Dateable AF podcast. Today, we are talking about the +1 problem. When your partner hates your friends, or when your friends hate your partner, and what do you do about it?
Coming to you live from my house. We are in the same house. We are not in the same room, but we are actually in the same house.
I know we were going to try to record in the same room because we've seen our podcast hero, Amy Poehler, doing that with her guests, but we can't figure it out, y'all. So
we're still learning.
We need an audio engineer to come and help us. So do we have any volunteers for that job? Hit us up.
Hit us up.
We'll shout you out. Okay. Well, anyway, we were talking about this idea of, do you ever bring your partner to brunch with your friends or your family and you just watch them sit there like they're auditioning for America's Most Bored Person?
Yeah, I've seen that happen.
Yeah. Or, when one person's partners doesn't click with the friend group, or when your friends can't stand your partner. Whew, that is a tough one.
It is. It's laced with landmines. So today we are going to talk to you guys about why that happens, how to tell if that's some kind of red flag, and also what you might be able to do about it before it becomes a deal breaker. I was doing a little research and I saw that most of the research was in the heterosexual environment. But did you know that there is a high divorce rate amongst heterosexuals if the man does not like the woman's friend?
Really?
Yeah.
That's so interesting. I wonder why it goes that direction and not the other way as much.
Yeah, I know. I thought it was too. Although I think part of that is in reading, women tend to make friends with other women, and they tend to have intimate friendships with them. So they tend to tell them things, talk to them about the soulful things, maybe the secrets in their lives, that sort of thing. And men go play golf, and I'm stereotyping right here. I mean, just say that. But go play golf or play sports together, whatever, but they're not sharing a lot of intimacy. And I think I could see where those could be, knowing that it could be sort of, I don't know, challenging for men to believe that their wives are giving over their deepest, darkest, probably talking about them. That's what you're worried about. They're talking about how they're not good in bed or something. I don't know.
Ooh, they probably are. They probably are. Yeah, sometimes I think that this happens, like either your friends don't like your partner or your partner doesn't like your friends because there's just some kind of personality mismatch. Maybe somebody's an introvert and the other person's an extrovert, or people have different styles of humor, or they're in, there might be some cultural gaps or age gaps or something like that. But I think, sometimes just for whatever reason, it's not a great fit.
I've always admired the way that you and Joe deal with that, where you allow one another to have those friends, and then you have certain ways that you can opt out, and you can talk a little bit more about that along the way. But I was, in some of the reading I was doing earlier, there's also this, depending on how you were raised, and if you were raised in a really enmeshed way, where it makes you feel more threatened for people to not share all of your feelings, all of your relationships, and all those connections in the same way that you do, then you do have a tendency to respond with a partner in that way, a negative way, if they get outside of, they have their own friends that you don't necessarily hang out with or that you don't like.
Yep, outside the comfort zone. And do you think that that's the result of some kind of jealousy or insecurity? Like if your partner feels threatened by your closeness to other people?
I think it can be any of those things. I definitely think there could be some jealousy involved if that person, especially if that person actually isn't, they don't have any other intimate friends. And so they're really putting all of their eggs in your basket.
Yes.
then I feel like they pull on you for that, and that they feel jealous that you're giving that to somebody else, and that it's like there's not enough to go around to them, you know?
I think that's true. Yep, I do. I think that's 100% true. And uh, I do think there's this idea of like, if you're, aren't you getting your needs met with me? Why do you even need those friends? And that's a dangerous thing. It puts too much pressure on all the parties. If all your eggs are in one basket, what happens if that basket's not available? And it just feels like way too much pressure. So yeah, you guys spread the love.
You spread the love. Also, I don't think people realize it, but there is a serious power and control element in this as well. And I absolutely believe that, and I've seen it happen where people, it's a control thing of wanting to control who you can hang out with, when you can hang out with them, and all of that is about them and their own insecurities. But I've seen a lot of good women come under that, like allow that to happen.
Yep.
And it's astounding, really.
Yep. You wake up and you've lost all your friends. That is, as a therapist, I will tell you that to me is a huge red flag. And we have a Monique in our lives that
Yes.
and we have seen Monique go through a few different relationships, and she did not like any of the friends of any of her partners. And all of those partners, when the relationship came to an end, woke up and had kind of been distanced from their friends, or had allowed themselves to become distant from their friends because Monique didn't like the friends. And that's, it's scary business right there.
It sure is. And we know the Monique is, yes, it's been pretty damaging along the way. And what happens is that you do wake up one day, and even if you don't leave, if you leave the person, then if you haven't had contact with your friends, they're like, now you're showing up.
Now you're coming back. Yeah.
And it takes a while to, if you can, sort of redo that and make your friends feel okay about you.
Yep.
Now, if you stay in the relationship, you eventually are going to still, I believe you will wake up one day and think, I feel lonely for my friends. I mean, I'm in an echo chamber here with this one person. Oftentimes you're doing only things with their people that they feel comfortable with.
Yep.
You look up and you've got no identity.
Yeah. Yep. And you got to hang on to that, because, that relationship might end one day, and for it, maybe because someone passes away or gets abducted by aliens, not necessarily because you break up, but that person may not be in your life forever. So you just don't want to have all of your eggs in that basket. I think sometimes too, there's like a value clash between your friends and your partner. Friends might see these red flags that you're ignoring because you're crazy about this person, or vice versa. Maybe your partner sees red flags about your friends that you're ignoring because you love these people. So, you got to watch out for those things.
And that can be those can be true concerns. I mean, your friends really may see you doing some things that they know it's not your normal behavior, and that it's worrisome. And then, and some of the reading I was doing, they were very specific about how you navigate and sort of walk softly about offering up your opinion. And
yeah,
one of the studies I was reading, it was actually a really good article, I think, from the Atlantic, was the idea that you might want to really hold out your personal opinion about those friends, because just based on the percentage of relationships that date and then don't make it as much, it is highly likely that your friendship will outlast their dating experience with that person.
Yeah. And if you think about family too, not to say that people don't break up with their family, but your mom's always going to be your mom, your kids are always going to be your kids, your siblings are always going to be your siblings. And, your spouse may or may not always be your spouse. And so it's just something to keep in mind before you start lopping people off like a bad limb, as we sometimes might tend to do.
Well, it is kind of a challenge too, because I actually have a Veronica in my life right now who is seeing someone that is they are unhealthy
Mm,
and they are doing unhealthy things. This is not my opinion. By the book, they are presenting themselves with this person in a way that is not okay. And this person knows it, but they continue to go back into it. And I've been thinking about that because I'm glad that they've talked to me about it. And that's the other thing. Like, I'm trying to keep a clean space open because I can't stop them from going into that. And they're going to have to figure that out themselves. And in the meantime, I don't want them to stop talking to me about what's going on, even when it's messy.
man, this is such a good topic. And I'm trying to decide how much of this I can say without oversharing. But I feel like this is a lesson that the universe is teaching me right now, because I have had this situation coming at me from all angles, where I will have someone in my personal life confiding in me about someone they're seeing and giving me the laundry list of all the terrible things this person has said and done. And when they're in a fight, they call me and they're crying, and, you know, things are not good. And then they patch things up with that person. And I'm supposed to forget all the terrible things that I know now. And it's really, really challenging, because it's like, if you're my friend, let's say, I want you to be happy. And if I see you being happy in this relationship, then great. It's so hard for me to compartmentalize the terrible texts that you show me from that person, or the terrible things that you told me this person has said to you. And so I think figuring all that out, you know, I don't want to withhold my opinion necessarily, but I also have to take care, because my opinion about this person is kind of fixed already, but yours might be malleable still, and you may be bouncing in and out of a relationship with them. So it's tricky.
It is tricky. And my reminder on this is that I just want to be available to this person. And eventually they're going to blow out on that. And it could even be a point where they really, really are needing to ask for support. And I don't want to be in a position where they just don't feel like they can come and get that from me. But to your point, sometimes you have to keep yourself, you can only ride the storm out with people. I mean, you have to be careful about how much of that you can absorb. And sometimes I think maybe just have to take a personal time out if it's an ongoing thing. Just sort of step back from it and reset to get back in it. Because if you're hearing it every single day, all the time, it's too much.
It's too much. Or even if they go through a really rough patch where, for example, I found out this person cheated on me, and, they were seeing this other person behind my back, and they did X, Y, and Z. Well, now I've forgiven them. They gave me a good reason. This is why they cheated. Well, I don't feel great about that now. I don't feel great about you re-entering with this person, because I don't trust them, or, saying really mean things when you get in a fight with this person, that this person has said just shattering things to you. And now they've, come back around, and you've forgotten all about it, but I didn't forget about it. So anyway, I do want my people to keep talking to me, and I also want to be able to express my concerns. So there's a fine line there.
There was some data in some of the readings that said the two, well, I can't remember the second reason, but I do. The first reason, the highest reason that friends want to help friends get out of a bad thing is because they feel it is their job to make sure they're safe, and they want to caretake them, that. Yeah. The other piece that was the second highest reason was because they want them to feel happy and joyful. And that's our natural instinct. I mean, you have another layer on this, you personally, because you're a therapist. It is your practice it's it's in your DNA. I mean, it really is. I think your natural response, one is you understand deeply the bad cycle and the likelihood that that's going to continue to be bad unless both people are trying to work on it. So I think the lens through which you look at this is also, it has some other things going on. Makes it
That's
harder.
probably true. I don't automatically stop being a therapist when people are talking to me about personal stuff. And I think you hit on something too, that we all want to believe that someone's going to change. I know that they've been verbally abusive to me 27 times, but now they've said they promise they're never going to do it again. It's like, okay. Okay. So yeah,
unless y'all are sitting in therapy together, I'm just going to say this. If you guys aren't sitting in the therapist's office together, talking out loud with a therapist about that issue, it's not good. Nope.
Yep. It's true. It is very true. So let's talk specifically about the situation of your partner not liking your friends and some possible reasons that might happen. So you start dating someone and that person's just like, oh, I don't like that friend. I don't like the other friend. I don't really like any of your friends.
I actually think that if both of you have a fairly broad friend pool, it's inevitable because I personally have an assortment of friends. Some of them bring me different things. And I know for sure that there are some people that are my very, that I know almost no one else would like, but just because I barely like them.
I won't ask where I fall in that group.
Yeah. I mean, but we all have special friends that they give us something and then we excuse the other things. And they are just those people for us. But your partner or somebody you're dating, they just may not excuse that. And it may not, they're going, what, are you crazy? Like, why are you dealing with that person?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I think sometimes the reasons are pretty innocent. Like your partner just has a different kind of social energy or a different comfort level with certain things. I think also if you have a long established group of friends like you do and like I do, bringing a new person into that can really make them feel like an outsider. Like if you have a lot of inside jokes or you talk about your history a lot together, then someone might just feel kind of left out. And those are innocent reasons why your partner might not want to hang out with your friends.
And long-term friends piece is interesting to me too, because our long-term friends have an opinion about who you're bringing in.
Yeah, because you're going to wreck the vibe of the group if you bring in the wrong person. Protecting themselves there.
I have some experience with my very long-term friends that including Sarah and Joe, and I've been single for a long time. Well, they get used to you being that way. And then they're sort of scared, like, oh, who are you inviting in? And, I've had a Monique or a Veronica kind of enter in a little bit, and some of my friends have been holding their tongue like, oh man, we're going to be
somebody that was kind of mean one time. And I was really hoping you did not end up with her because she was mean.
You what? She was hippie.
I'm not mentioning any names, but you know who I'm talking about.
You and y'all were holding your tongue, but both of you were like, "Oh God, please don't make us
do it." Luckily, that was short-lived.
Yeah, I want a disclaimer out there that doesn't have anything to do with anybody I'm currently seeing.
No. No, we can only talk about past situations.
Yeah.
This was a very brief one. So I think even if that particular Monique or Veronica was listening, she would not know that it was her because she probably doesn't think she's mean. But she was.
But it wasn't the one that hit you in the face with the pickleball either.
No, that was a different person.
Different one.
You didn't date her.
No, I did not. But it is.
That would be a good match for each other.
Oh my gosh. She's a lovely person. I'm still say that. And
She
no,
is a lovely person.
it is though. Brings up the point of your friends being different. So you and Joe have different sets of friends that you guys don't enjoy them in the same ways.
Right. I will say in general, I can't think of any of Joe's friends that I just don't like. I mean, I like most people and so does Joe. So we're not ever in any situations where I'm like, oh, I can't stand that person. But there are people that she enjoys differently than I do. And, you made reference earlier to you have some friends that you barely like them. And so we both have that situation a little bit. But in those cases, I'm like, sure, you go have dinner with that person or you go have a coffee with that person. And I don't need to go. But I've probably mentioned this on the podcast before. We also have an agreement that if we need a wingman, we can call each other in and say, hey, I know this isn't your favorite person, but I really need a wingman for this event or for this dinner. And we say yes, wholeheartedly.
And I want to play up that. Like, folks, if you're out there dating, you're in a relationship with somebody, you don't need to be in every single thing with the other person. The other person needs to let you have an out. And honestly, you think about it, you're probably going to have more fun if you don't have your partner along it's not their favorite scenario. Right. You're going to have more fun. You don't have to think about it. And then just the other thing is that it's just healthier to have something that's just yours. Just having those friendships where they really are, you've got something that's just yours and you don't have to share everything.
100%. And then it gives you interesting things to talk about when you're back together again. So because you had time apart, you had experiences away from each other. Yep. So coming back to this idea that you don't have to do everything together and that sometimes your partner doesn't really like your friends, and sometimes that's okay. I think there are times when that is a red flag. And the times that it, to me, looks like a red flag is if your partner discourages you from seeing your friends. It's one thing if they opt out and said, not my favorite person or not my favorite activity, but you go ahead. If they discourage you from seeing your friends or if they guilt trip you about going and doing the things you enjoy with the people you enjoy, I believe that is a red flag.
It is a red flag. There's sort of this, well, what I look at as I'm dating somebody, I am looking at, do they have long-term friends? And do they continue to maintain that commitment to spending time with them? And fairly early on, do they, if I mean something to them, do they introduce me to them? Because I do think that's important. And I like seeing how that person's going to respond around my friends. But then, not, I don't feel the need to be with them all the time, that they continue to do that and maintain that relationship.
And you made a comment yesterday when we were talking about this, that part of what is important to you is seeing who the person you're dating prefers and why. Like, why do you enjoy these people? Like, I'm curious about that, and I want to get to know these people because I know you love them, and I want to know what you love about them. Like, that curiosity, I think, is super helpful.
Hopefully you want to date somebody that's kind of multifaceted, right? I mean, that they have varying interests, but they also have this ability and understanding that their life is richer if they have difference in it. And that's sort of a big deal, is like, are you able to not just manage, but actually accept and embrace people being with you that are different? And I think oftentimes that is what's going on, is that there are people that fill our lives in a moment and in a space, and they don't fill it in other ways, but they're fun in the moment. Like, they are my go-to fun people. And on this given day, all I want to do is just focus on the fun.
Absolutely. And I think that can be super healthy. And if you have a partner who's criticizing your friends or belittling your friends, here's a phrase that I hear fairly often, and I want our listeners to pay attention to this. the phrase, your friends are a bad influence, there is a reason why your partner or you have picked these friends. And if these people are a bad influence, you picked those people. I mean, this applies to parents too, that you think your kid's friends are a bad influence. Your kid is the one who picked the friends that were bad influences. So you can't isolate that and be like, it's your friend's fault that you're drinking so much, or it's your friend's fault that you're partying. It's like, no, you're choosing the friends who drink a lot, or you're choosing the friends who party, or whatever it is. So just pay attention to that phrase, that someone is a bad influence. The bad influence people are being chosen actively. So
Good point.
you can't say that. And I think if your partner tries to isolate you or make you choose, oh, that is the worst. Like, it's either me or me or your friends. It's like, no, you get to choose both. So don't let yourself get put in a position where you're being forced to make a choice.
Run when that happens.
Run away.
The other thing that we talked about was having these long-term friends, which both of us have very long-term friends where we've gone through a lot of life's transitions with those people. And this is the other thing I would say when you're dating somebody or building a partnership with someone, is that you are never, ever going to be able to walk back in that time period with those people in that way. But it doesn't mean that you can't really enjoy those people and building your own, kind of taking your own journey with them, letting them get to know you, but not comparing the relationship that they have with your person, because that's impossible. And it's just going to create jealousy and discomfort for everyone.
Yep. Agreed. So if you find yourself in a situation where your partner doesn't like your friends, here are some things you can do. You can validate their feelings. Hey, I understand these aren't your people. They are my people. So I'm going to spend time with them sometimes, and you can choose to come along or not. You can also, if you want to mingle the two, you can suggest kind of low pressure hangouts, maybe not like a trip away with each other, but kind of small group things, or like things that don't last very long, things where you have an activity to do, like you go, I don't know, bowling or something like that together, where it's short duration and you have something else to focus on. But I do think it's really important to hold the line and say, hey, you don't have to like my friends, but you have to respect them and you have to respect my relationship with them. And if the person can't do that, that in itself is a red flag. Again, run away.
Run. Yes, respect is important. And I do think it helps too if you just ask your person questions about the fun that they've had or what they enjoy, because you might learn a lot more about what the connection is. And you don't have to need that connection. You don't even have to understand it. But if you really are interested in your person, you're going to be interested in that, or at least I would like to think you would.
Absolutely. So now I want to talk a little bit about the flip side of what happens if your friends or your family do not like your partner. What do you think are some reasons why that might happen?
A million reasons. I mean, they just don't. I mean, they don't make sense. They don't feel like their relationship is being respected. Yeah, I mean, the list goes on and on.
The main important thing with all of that is that I think sometimes our friends and family love us, and they might see some behaviors from the partner that we don't see. I think that you could be rationalizing a behavior because you're head over heels for someone, but your friends and family might see that they're actually really disrespectful of you, or that they're trying to control you, or maybe that they're really immature. So that to me is kind of a valid reason that you should pay attention to. If everyone in your life does not like the person you're dating or is not supportive of the relationship, you should pay attention to that. If one friend doesn't like your partner, but everyone else thinks they're great, yeah, that's probably something about the one friend. But if 90% of your friends are concerned, you should pay attention.
And if you're a parent out there with a young person doing this, yeah, you just have to be very careful about how you
Yep.
express your opinions about that
For sure.
relationship.
Yes,
But
for sure.
and asking when all else fails, just to ask questions. It's always better to ask questions than it is to make a statement, which is hard
Yep.
to do.
Yeah, and I will say also to decide if you keep complaining about the partner of your family member or of your friend, you're probably going to lose your relationship with that person. And so you have to decide, is this the hill I want to die on? Am I going to separate from my, parent or my kid or my sibling or my friend because I don't like who they're dating? Like, it's probably not worth it. So you figure out how you can maintain your connection and support them in what they're choosing to do.
One thing that I learned to do, and it took some time and some uh, wisdom in a lot of different situations, was that, and Sarah, you could probably relate to this. It's just when you do have those very long-term friendships that can be sort of intimidating to the new person coming in, is that especially if when you're struggling, whether it be with your new relationship or whether you're struggling with decisions to make, those are the people that you often turn to talk to them about things. And one thing I have learned to say clearly is to try to describe my relationship with those people and what they do for me when I'm struggling. And an example of that is that if I'm struggling, whether it be with a relationship or making a decision about something hard, my closest friends that are my confidants, they do not weigh in with you shouldn't do this or you shouldn't do that or any personal opinions about that person, because over time they know that that's not what I'm seeking. It's not helpful. And I'm not looking for anybody to bash the other person or lay down negative judgments on that other person. I'm looking for somebody to ask me questions, and they ask me hard questions based on what they know about me and my part and what keeps me healthy. And I found that if I can explain that to somebody, because oftentimes the other person's thinking you're talking about me and everybody's bashing me and I'm never going to get out of this. Okay. I'm not going to get out alive. And it's like, no, I don't seek that out. It is not helpful.
No, it's not helpful at all. And I'm thinking about a particular situation that's been going on in my life for a while where someone that I've been very close to has been seeing a person and has, at the beginning, told me way too much about the toxic behavior of that person. And I was pretty careful to give my opinion. And like you said, I asked a lot of questions and, there was a breakup and then getting back together and then another breakup. And there have been, 100 breakups since then. And now I say, like, what are you doing with this information that you have? Like, that all of these things have happened. You know about the terrible things this person has said about you. You know about the infidelity that this person has perpetuated. You know about some very dishonest behaviors of this person. What are you doing with that? Like, how are you reconciling that with this person? Because I didn't make those up. That's not my opinion. Those are factual things that have been told to me. And so it's like, I'm having a hard time reconciling that, but how are you doing it? Because maybe that's going to help me get past it too. So yeah, but I agree that that's you got to be careful giving your opinion about someone's person, and you have to be careful about the counsel you seek when you're in a relationship, because if you tell someone too much, it might be point of no return where they can't bounce back from it.
And a lot of people, to that point, a lot of people actually seek really negative counsel. They don't see it as such, but they seek the counsel of people who are going to get in that thing with them, in that cabal, and everybody's going to beat up on the deal. And you feel really good in the moment because you think they're supporting you and all on the same page with you, and they don't like this person with you in the moment. And I'm just going to say out there, if you're one of those people that go to people that do that, I just don't think they're your best people to help you really deal with anything that's serious in your life,
Yeah,
especially if you're trying to date somebody and figure out the best parts of that.
And you're going to make it real hard on yourself if you re-enter with someone who has treated you poorly and you told all your friends and family that they treated you poorly, because then it's real hard on all the parts. So if you are the person who's dating someone that no one likes, you know, pay attention, because that is important. And if you see that your loved ones are kind of afraid to tell you how they feel, or here's a big one, if you find yourself hiding things to avoid the opinions of other people, man, God, I see this one so often too, that it's like people just pull away from their support system because they're afraid to tell them what's going on. That if you find yourself not talking to your people because you're afraid of their opinions, that is a huge red flag.
It is. Really have to ask yourself, like, what in the heck are you doing?
Yep. And so if you're that person, if you're dating someone and your people don't like them, some things you can do are, number one, listen without defensiveness. Like, try to hear exactly what is bothering these people about your dating partner. Try to separate what could be valid concerns from, are these people just, being overly protective of you? Ask yourself, like, are they seeing something here, or are they just projecting their own fears or their own insecurities? But most importantly, do not isolate yourself. That is how you get in a mess of trouble. So just make sure that you're continuing to get some outside perspective about things.
Yeah. And if their dislike is rooted in prejudice or sexuality or that sort of thing, you really do need to set some firm boundaries, because that is something else we haven't really talked about, is just that if you're bringing somebody into an environment where you know that there's going to be some prejudice or some, that's a tough one.
Yeah, for sure. And so, you want to make sure that you're listening to them objectively. You're not outsourcing your relationship decisions. So you're not letting other people make decisions for you, but you also don't want to ignore the feedback from people who genuinely care about you.
And, encouraging them to get to know their partners in different settings.
Yeah, for sure. Like, don't just base your opinion on what you've seen of my partner at a football game or something like that. They actually do know how to have intellectual conversations, or give them a more well-rounded view of the person. And, just make sure that the difference between what a healthy conversation sounds like and what a controlling conversation sounds like. Like, if somebody's trying to control your decisions versus if they're just trying to help you look at something more objectively.
Yeah. And this is sort of a little bit off this specific line of talking, but one thing I have in the dating world, there's always the question of when you do introduce your person to your friends, and there are varying opinions about that. And also the different sets of friends along the way. And I tend to agree. I think it was Mel Robbins that said this, like, or no, Esther Perel maybe, but that, and I agree with it. I want to do it sooner rather than later.
Same. And I know some people wait like months. I know one of my kiddos waited months before he introduced his now wife to us, because he wanted to make sure it was going to stick, and I think he didn't want me to get attached before he knew it was going to be permanent. And so I'm just of the opinion that bring it on early, see how everybody meshes with each other. I like to get it all mixed up on the front end. Let's do it.
We're gonna do it.
Absolutely. Yep. So I did want to talk just briefly about kind of what's behind all this. And I would say that sometimes you have cognitive dissonance, so that, you have this opinion about the person you're dating and your friends or family have a different opinion. And that creates cognitive dissonance for you, because you're like, oh, how could my opinion be so different from these other people's? And so then you tend to defend your relationship harder. So just look at that tendency to do that. And remembering too that humans, like, we evolved by relying on each other to create safety. We needed to be in a tribe or in a group. And so we want our communities to validate our romantic choices. And when that doesn't happen, it's painful. And so I think those are some reasons why we do what we do. But as you stated earlier, the healthiest couples have good boundaries. The healthiest couples maintain individual friendships, along with shared friendships. So, just keep in mind that it's not an either or, it's not all one way or the other.
Yeah. And it is absolutely okay to end up not liking one of your person's friends.
For sure.
You don't have to, but you don't have to be critical outwardly about that. You can just have your own feelings about it.
Yep. Okay. Well, let's talk about the takeaways that we want our listeners to get from this episode. I'd say the first one is just, like you said, not everybody's going to vibe. Not everybody's going to love everybody, and that's okay. If it becomes really skewed one way or the other, that all of your friends hate your partner or your partner hates all your friends, that's a different story, but it doesn't need to be 100%.
Right. And isolation and disrespect or guilt tripping somebody is just not a productive practice. It's not helpful.
No, those are all red flags. I believe that your social circle, the people that you have surrounded yourself with, are a protective factor for your own well-being. So make sure you continue to value that, even if there is some discord. Don't give up on that, and don't lose that, because it's there for a reason.
And you absolutely deserve a partner that supports your friendships and your connections, and they see the value in you and you having those.
Yes, 100%. If you and your partner or your dating person want to talk more about this, we have a couple of ideas of conversation generators. One of those is, I think it's good to ask each other, which of my friends do you like the most and why do you like them? And just really dive into kind of what your partner can appreciate about your friends. And on the flip side of that, I think it's okay to say, hey, are there any of my friends that are hard for you? And what makes them hard for you? And try to listen to that objectively. This isn't a matter of somebody's going to bash your friends, but saying there might be characteristics about your friends that are hard for them for, personal reasons that don't have anything to do with you. And then taking a look at how can we make that better for everyone.
Yeah. Well, this has been a very meaty conversation. I think a lot of good information for people to wrap their minds around.
Yes. Yeah. So let's wrap this up and talk about what's coming next time. I just want to say that love and relationships should expand your world, not shrink it. So if your partner or your friends can't coexist, it's time to ask yourself, who's actually looking out for you?
Mm-hmm. So please share your stories with us about how your friends, families, and partners coexist. Again, we love your feedback. We want to hear if you have hard questions or you think that you're in a situation that's different than anything we've talked about. Weigh in. Let us know.
Tell us. We love to hear about it. So the way you can let us know, you can email us info@dateableaf.com, or you can send us a DM on our Instagram account, which is @dateableaf. So please join us for our next episode next week. We are going to be talking about Gaydar 2.0, how we actually know who's queer these days.
Oh, God, it's so confusing out there.
So confusing out there. But as always, we want to thank you for listening to the Dateable AF podcast, where we help you find your happy ending.
And remember, be bold, be kind, and for the love of queer dating, don't text your ex. Stay dateable.
AF.